you believe me if I told you there's actually a video game about this? This is Darkest of Days. Someone recommended it to me as a good game for just turning off your brain and going to town. Except, I made this video, so clearly I've failed on that front. You play as Alexander Morris, a soldier in Custer's army. Yeah, that Custer. You were supposed to have died to one of Crazy Horse's finest, but then you got abducted by the Time Police. This is a world where time travel exists, so they need more agents to keep people from fucking with the timelines. You could say no, but they'd just drop you right back where they found you. You know, like, right there. Well, since this is your life now, you're given a tutorial that's simultaneously overly coddling for a video game and grossly inadequate for your 19th century ass. After you prove you can shoot a gun, you get your partner Dexter and a quick rundown on your mission. Someone, somewhere, and somewhen is fucking with the timeline, setting some VIPs on an intercept course with danger. That means you need to rescue Petrovich from the Battle of Tannenberg and Welsh from the Battle of Antietam. Yeah, this is gonna be an uphill fight.
Isn't it great to fight at the Battle of Antietam? Take this gun and engage in some numerical adjustment out there.
Well, that's fucking bad shit. Who made this? Oh. Okay. This was kind of driving me crazy. I think this is a pretty cool game, but it kind of came out of fucking nowhere. Eventually, my curiosity completely took the reins and I tracked down the director, Aaron Sherman. He was pretty surprised that anyone was even thinking about the game 11 years later, and he agreed to a little interview. So 8 Monkey Labs didn't actually just materialize out of nowhere. Aaron was doing really well in the casino games market, but always wanted to do an FPS. The idea for the story had been stewing in his head for a while, so he started 8 Monkey Labs to start working on Darkest of Days.
Our goal was to build basically a really good beta, and then have one of the big studios pick it up. I thought it was such a good story, and definitely a story that could go on and on and on, that I went out and I ended up pitching it to THQ and EA and Activision, and man, we had the perfect storm. They all wanted it. They all wanted it. They were all bidding against each other, and everybody believed this was going to be the next big franchise. And then the financial crash happened.
Wow, okay. It looks like this was going to be the next big thing, but due to those fucking banks, all we're seeing now is the beta. The beta that was developed for $3 million, or like 4% of its target budget. So this engine was built from scratch and it needed to accommodate a $70 million game. So, how was it? I gotta air a slight bias. It runs at a few hundred FPS and it lets me change the fucking field of view, so it can look like dog shit for all I care. Fortunately though, it doesn't. It doesn't have as much detail as, another game from 2009, but you're trading that detail for big 3D vistas, huge levels, good effects, and physics integration. So it's got some great looking dynamic particle effects, and it'll instantly fucking crash if you don't have an NVIDIA card. Yeah, it's not all sunshine and gun smoke, but I had almost zero technical issues when I played. Arrows will animate at like the wrong frame rate, and I had like 2 crashes. Everything else was a result of having a higher than intended field of view, so stuff like the creepy hand doesn't really count. It's hard to say anything about the art since there isn't really a distinct style going on outside of the futuristic stuff. I will say that the silhouettes don't pop too well, so readability in visually dense situations can be kind of annoying, but I have a secret pro gamer technique for that. See how I'm strafing left and right like a fucking insane person? I'm trying to create movement via parallax to make enemies distinct from the environment. It works pretty well in any game with iffy readability, but be careful about doing it in a multiplayer game, since it makes you easier to pick out as well. The only real issue with the sound is the stereo. It is fucking aggressive, like they were proud of themselves for coding it or something. It doesn't sound bad in game, but it sounds awful in the video. I have to downmix some of these clips to mono just so it's not assaulting you. The voice acting also adds a lot to the fights. I love the cheesy vocalizations from the Civil War levels.
Pick off them, Woohoo! What a shot! Get them, you need to go!
And rolling with the Russians kind of felt like the comfy parts of Stalker.
Какая здесь, наверное, была красота, пока не пришел немец.
Даже не мечтайте.
Меня простого контролера так еще никто не называл.
There are like 5 characters total, but I really love Dexter.
Fried chicken. I could really go for some old-fashioned fried chicken right now. And a beer.
His delivery and the music ensured that scenes have the right amount of urgency.
I really miss New York-style pizza. Remember that? Ah, crap, I forgot. You're from a time before pizza.
I don't have a good transition for this. Hey, look how many guys there are. The engine can handle literally hundreds of dudes running around at the same time, and basically the entire game is built to utilize them. The levels themselves are huge, and each battle is packed to the brim with people on both sides. They use a lot of tricks and constantly move you around to try to sell that this level of detail and carnage is happening all over the map. Sometimes you can see evidence of the man behind the curtains, but he will usually slap you on the wrist for trying. My biggest issue with this game is the invisible walls. There are so fucking many of them. I said that the illusion holds together, but I can't tell if it's because the later levels do a better job of communicating where you're supposed to go, or if you just get psychologically conditioned to stop trying to go where the game doesn't want you to. In gameplay, all of those individual dudes actually have their own AI. It's not like amazing or anything, but it's impressive what they can do considering just how many of them there are. It first stood out to me when I noticed that they were taking cover. Not just like pre-scripted chest-high walls, but like trees, bits of a fence, artillery pieces, anything physical to put between themselves and you. After I noticed that, I started seeing a lot of other behaviors too. They can move as a group and even outposition and outflank you if you're not careful. They can instigate a melee charge if they're confident, or a full retreat if they're not. They know how to use grenades, and more importantly, how to show some fucking restraint with them. They have good AI barks to communicate their states, like, "Get your knives, man!" And it's not like a hive mind thing either. Look at these 6 Germans. One books it for the tree, 2 of them move closer to the hill and out of my sight, and these 3 charge in on the right side. When I pop one of them, his 2 buddies decide that they're in a shitty position, so they try to retreat to some cover. It turns out that while I was dealing with those guys, the 2 on the left had actually met up with some buddies so that they could charge up the hill. I think that encapsulates the AI pretty well. They're not intelligent enough to be really threatening like a human player, but also not so lobotomized that they're docile and unfun to fight. The AI in this game makes a great enemy, and they do a great job of carrying the experience. Oh, right, the experience. Gameplay. I didn't really feel too bad about taking this long to get to the gameplay, mostly because, like, you have eyes. I don't think you need me to explain what's going on for the footage to make sense. Each level takes place during a historical event, and you get weapons from that era. You start with a rifle and a pistol, and there's a good selection of weapons for each era, which you acquire through the tried and true method of looting bodies. After enough honest fighting, or whenever the game thinks you're bored, it'll hand you a modern weapon, point you towards the bad guys, and give you the freedom to just fucking cut loose. The shooting is kind of subpar for the time, but only because games like Fear and Modern Warfare 2 set the bar really damn high. The important parts of a shooter are the guns, the enemies, and the context of the gunfights, which is responsible for placing those enemies at the receiving end of those guns. As for the guns, I think they're all well done. They have a good sound and visual impact, and they're great at hurting the bad men. None of them are weak or lacking of impact. My favorite weapon was the Henry rifle, but an honorable mention goes to the Sharps rifle. The Morgan James rifle. Wait, hang on. Well, that's fucking awesome. I think it's just a coding oversight, but you don't start reloading until after you unscope, so you can keep looking through it to confirm that your shot actually connected. I will admit that I do have a soft spot for old weapons and shooters. It might just be from playing a lot of Fistful. Ironically, the guns that are the least fun are overwhelmingly the modern ones. The iron sights are pretty much unusable. I mean, look at this. You can't even see the enemy behind the bright-ass reticle. Even if you could, the recoil and muzzle flash makes it fucking worthless. Hip firing is actually practical, but you're limited to small bursts and are only effective at short to medium range. So, you can either aim your gun but not see what the fuck you're shooting, or see what you're shooting and not be able to hit it. I think the old weapons actually have the same issue with the recoil and the muzzle flash, but they have such a low rate of fire that it doesn't come up. The modern weapons are still fun to use, but they're kinda supposed to be the high moments of the game, and they really don't live up to that. Immediately, one difference of note in weapon handling is the inclusion of active reloading. I always thought active reloading was kinda fucking stupid, but I realized it actually makes sense for old weaponry. With modern weapons, you just take out the old mag and slap a new one in. But for old guns, it's a whole fucking process, and the skill of the operator is much more impactful for your reload time, so it makes sense to abstract that into a little minigame. Now you would think slaughtering people by the fucking dozens would radically alter the course of history, but it's okay. They weren't important. You know that because they don't have a blue aura. Oh, so that's how it works. I mean, like, most of the deaths from Civil War were from shit like gangrene, but I'm sure he'll be fine. We've all seen games with people you're not allowed to shoot, but they weren't shooting back. On paper, I think it sounds kind of annoying, but it ends up working pretty well. You're not allowed to kill them, but a leg shot will take them out of the battle just as easily. And if that's too much trouble for you, you can also chuck a handful of chasers at them. They'll instantly stun and incapacitate anyone important, and they even come back to you, but they don't have that much range. You throw a whole handful of them too, so with the right positioning or situation, you can turn the enemy's advantage against them. However, this is a PC shooter, so I have a mouse. That means it was really easy to just shoot the blue guys, so by the halfway point I had completely forgotten about the chasers, even in situations where they would really have come in handy. Thankfully, it's not game over if you shoot one or two of them in the middle of your brainless killing spree. You didn't completely fuck up the time stream, you just created some extra work for the Chronotech agents that now have to go back in time and clean up after your clumsy ass. You're low on manpower as it is, so the people cleaning up after you could have been upgrading your weapons instead. In the game, this means that you get less upgrade points. Don't shoot the blue men, get points for your guns, got it. And if that wasn't enough of an incentive, shooting way too many of the blue men will summon the cops. Wait, I thought we were the cops. Oh, something's going on here, isn't there? So far the story has just been, go get the guy, you fucked up and didn't get the guy, try again, and repeat a few times. Like I said, I was still playing the game for a brainless shooter, and so this amount of story is pretty much perfect for the amount of attention I was willing to give. I was honestly getting the feeling that our organization was just cartoonishly incompetent. I mean, there's an underlying plot thread about how the father of time went missing, the lady giving you missions is called Mother, and her accent really doesn't make me want to take her seriously.
What in the bloody hell happened back there? Where are Collins and Gibson? And what happened to Petrovich?
Nothing against British people, or I mean, everything against British people, really, but it just seems like a goofy spy movie. She's also not really aware of what we're actually doing, and it kind of feels like she's just not paying attention. Like, we go completely off script and hijack a whole ass Zeppelin, getting a few other agents killed in the process, and she just berates us for losing to the Germans with our superior tactics and training. I'm sorry, what? We're just two fucking guys. Even with whatever the fuck this thing was, we're still just two normal guys. And I'm not even from the future, I'm from 1876. I don't know what you expected. I guess you have the upgrades, but those are actually pretty funny when you think about it narratively. I mean, I understand the advantage of a properly cleaned and rifled barrel for accuracy, but how the fuck did they increase the magazine size for the Henry rifle? Yeah, I know the Henry rifle's tube-fed or whatever, I don't know if that counts as a magazine, please don't comment. While we're on the subject of narrative framing for mechanics, you just have the standard COD health here. It's literally just an aesthetic complaint, but they really should have made this like an overshield or something. It'd do a lot to make it feel like you have some kind of advantage as a time traveler. So something's off with Chronotech, and I'm not sure if it's actual malice or just incompetence, but when the opposition come in, they are all business. When I first heard one of them call me a chronological anomaly, I thought I had the story pegged. I thought they were going to have a twist reveal where it turns out that we're the bad guys. Maybe Mother had something to do with the Father of Time's disappearance, and now she's using the agents to fuck with history for her own personal benefit. Sure, the opposition are grim and intimidating, but do you really expect me to believe they're the bad guys when they exclusively show up as a reaction to our fucking with history? This game started out as a gloriously stupid, brainless shooter, but I actually think the writing was competent enough to warrant talking about spoilers later in the video. For now, I'll say that my twist theory was wrong, but I was picking up on the right pieces and clues, I just put them together wrong. As this intrigue with the opposition is building, the game also manages to squeeze a little bit more out of its assets by sending you through some of the same battles, but on the other side, to kind of even things out a bit. I mean, did you really think the laser-guided war crime wasn't going to have some repercussions? It's basically narrative timeout, but it gives me a great chance to talk about the gameplay again. Okay, narrative timeout is a little reductive, but it was a good transition. These levels aren't just the original ones, but backwards. This ain't a fucking racing game. I mean, they might have reused some of the maps, but I didn't notice anything, except, of course, for the level where you're literally shooting at yourself. The meat of the levels isn't the maps, but the objectives, and the way the game keeps you moving from fight to fight. The pace of both the missions and the overall campaign is great, and they're always changing it up to keep it fresh. You open up with some set pieces like the Indians and Little Bighorn and the Antietam firing line. There's a level where you run through the swamps. Oh god. It's fucking Euro, man. There's a level where you run through the swamps with some scouts. You get your standard... Ooh, that's bad. Ooh. You get your standard trench warfare, of course, and then later you get to give the trenches the finger. It just keeps ramping up until it finally climaxes with an all-out futuristic street-to-street shootout in Pompeii, right in the middle of the eruption. I tried this line like 10 fucking times. I'm going with that take. Right in the middle of the... I keep saying interruption. in the streets of Pompeii, right in the middle of the eruption. You know, the big one. I was really surprised how much this game was able to do with what it has. I mean, the mixing of modern weapons with historical battles doesn't really seem like that big of a deal, but it actually changed fights a lot. One automatic weapon turns a losing battle into a wave defense. One shotgun turns a slow advance through the forest into constant running and gunning. One level sends you in solo with a completely modern loadout, and the gameplay changes from being the deciding factor of a battle to being a true one-man army. It might be kind of below average for 2009, but I am fucking sold on this game, or at least the idea of more. That doesn't mean the game didn't do enough with what it had, but there is so much more material for games exactly like it. There are a lot of historical figures that would make an excellent protagonist. For example, Audie Murphy. This guy is the pinnacle of badass. He earned literally every single award for heroism that the army had, as well as some French and Belgian awards just for fucking good measure. I have a hard time believing that some random schmuck from Little Bighorn can do all of this, but Audie Murphy? I feel like they missed a slight opportunity to show some actual historical figures. Like, we got to see General Custer, that was pretty cool, but never again. I mean, how cool would it be if there was a mission in like the Spanish-American War and you got to roll with Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders? Or shit, what if we got away from fucking Europe for once and got to hang out with Lawrence of Arabia? Actually, forget Darkest of Days for a second. I'd gladly pay full price for a shooter that's just about him. Call it 7 Barrels of Wisdom or some shit, I don't know. There's also a lot of incredible options for mission settings, like Rourke's Drift, Shiroyama, the Defense of Belgrade. Okay, I'm just reading from a list of Sabaton songs, but seriously, like anything Sabaton has done would be an excellent fit for this game. There's a lot of stuff in the game that's already a great fit. We've got the Great War, the White Death, 82nd All the Way, the Final what? Yeah, there's an Auschwitz level, and it opens up exactly like Schindler's List. The level itself is also really weirdly out of place and is by far the least polished. I got killed for trying to wait in line, I explored the camp to find awful looking level geometry, and I actually got out of bounds at one point and had to wiggle myself back into the action. It feels like this level never got past the guy that puts invisible walls fucking everywhere. Oh, wait a minute. We got the Civil War, we got Confederates, we got Nazis, and now we got the Holocaust. Okay, moving on. You had to go to Auschwitz because there's actually 3 guys you need to save, not 2. They just didn't figure it out because 2 of them are named Petrovich. I thought this was really fucking stupid. Oh god, the euro is coming back up. You know, I'm experimenting with leaving outtakes in this video. Like just sprinkled in the middle. Let's see if this one fucking ends up in there. I thought this was really fucking stupid, but I did a lot of genealogical work last semester for a class, and honestly, it's so accurate. It is perfect. It is true to life. That is exactly how it is. The point is, Welch and the Super Petrovich brothers need to live because they contribute some shit to science, but your attempts to rescue them keep hitting snag after snag. The opposition are also becoming more and more of a threat, cropping up as an actual ambush instead of a reaction to your fuck-ups, and they even pull you aside for a brief chat. I don't think anyone cares, but if you want to avoid spoilers, you can skip to here. But I mean, like, I don't think it's worth $20. This guy is the leader of the opposition. He only really says, I'm not the bad guy, before you're pulled back to the real game, but that doesn't matter. We've located the Father of Time. He was taken to Pompeii, and we gotta get to him before the opposition does. This is the climax of the game, and it is fucking awesome. It's just non-stop, street-to-street, fucking action with modern weapons. There's Romans running around in a panic, but they're in Pompeii, so collateral damage isn't a word in your vocabulary here. You also have whatever the fuck this is. If you hold right click, it'll vaporize shit at a good range, which carried me all the way to Father. I honestly have no idea if he's written to be senile. He's just kind of dicking around and not really taking the situation seriously. Like, you find him doing a painting, and then he wants to go see the Colosseum, so you have to fight your way there, and then actually have a fight in the Colosseum for his entertainment. He's pleased, so he lets us take him home, and the leader of the opposition turns up for the big reveal. It turns out the opposition isn't a rival agency to Chronotech. They are Chronotech, but from the future. Chronotech exists strictly to prevent people from meddling with history, but the events of the future have called for desperate measures. In the future, some Middle Eastern terrorists, probably sick of all the fucking drone strikes, developed a bioweapon, a lethal virus that targets DNA. They wanted to set it loose on just white people, but it mutated and quickly wiped out almost all human life. The opposition tried to subtly, there's a fucking B in that word. The opposition tried to subtly influence Father's research to get him to see the value of changing history just this once. However, Father is still adamant that we can't change history.
Thank you, Doctor. I have my answer. And it breaks my heart to hear it. I have read all your works several times. You are a hero to millions, including me. And so it pains me greatly to do this.
Hey! What the fuck?
When I first saw this, I was like, what the fuck does that accomplish? You have a time machine, just go back and fix it. And then I realized, oh, that's what they were doing the whole time. That's what they were doing with Welsh and Petrovich. We weren't failing to save them because we're incompetent. We were failing to save them because the opposition was trying to kill them, but just not directly. When I was playing the game, I always thought the story was just kind of stupid, but here I realized that it was just me that was stupid. I don't entirely blame myself, since this theme of time travel as assassination was supposed to be a huge part of the story.
And the more I thought about it, I really got excited about it. And I think that's what got Hollywood excited. Is just, man, in the way I would normally pitch it is, 9/11 had just happened. You could, who knows, until time travel is actually invented, somebody may have been in that tower that day and didn't know that they weren't supposed to be there. And nobody will ever know or question it because I had a meeting there and the building fell and I died. But it could have been that you were never supposed to be there.
Time travel plots are often just really stupid, but Darkest of Days managed to make an actually competent one. And that's really what drove me to make this video. This game with a tiny budget managed to be consistently competent in every area, creating a great experience from start to finish. I'd recommend it, but oh boy, not for 20 bucks. The thing with shooters is that it's not really hard to get them right, so there are tons of better shooters. I mean, I'd call this like a 7.5. But this is still a great way to burn a few hours, and the idea of using time travel as historical tourism in a first-person shooter is criminally underutilized. I mean, we have a few thousand years of human history to draw from, and like 400 of them involved gunpowder. And Aaron understands this too.
But it's funny, I always tell my wife, I'm like, there's something about Darkest of Days, and there just seems like every month or two, somebody reaches out, either wanting to do a TV spot and I kind of say no to all of them, but there's something in there that still, I told her, I'm like, there's still interested from Hollywood. Sometimes I think about reviving the story. I think what it's going to come down to is the right combination of people, and go do it properly someday.
I made this point to Aaron, and I'll say it here too. There is no need to do it right with this game. The issue is not that it didn't do justice to what it explored, but that there's so much more you can explore with this framing. So that was Darkest of Days. I wanted an easy video to do, but reaching out to Aaron and Adam kind of complicated things, and oh my god, it's February now. I was doing this in like November. Oh. Also, shout out to my one patron, Ghastly Gaming. If you like this video or want to see more like it, please spread this video around. If you'd like to see me spend more time on videos and less time at my actual job, you can join Ghastly Gaming as an absolute Chad. Also, I have a bunch of fucking footage on my hard drive, and I don't know what to do with it. I have been posting random shit to the secret videos playlist just because I don't want to make like I don't want to upload a random video and have it go to people's sub boxes and be like, oh, what is this fucking trash? I cracked my knuckles. Have them be like, what is this fucking trash? But yeah, it's too much. It's too funny. I can't let it die. Hey, Rock Buddy, how you doing, Rock Boy? So I've been resisting making a second channel just because what's the fucking point of a second channel when your first channel has like 20 viewers? But I'm making the second channel just because I realized I can call it Toastoffire. So yeah, I'll put a link in that in the description whenever the fuck I make that, and I'll give you a little snippet that's gonna get posted on there. All right, have fun, everybody. I love you. Mwah. He's bouncing us into the water with the fucking... Okay, nice, you got him. Yeah, that interp's working out. Okay, don't turn that corner. There's a sniper. And he's good. No, don't Germa this. Okay. You got him! That's gotta be dead right here, but...